Running never did much good. Hiding doesn't last forever. You can't run faster when it's you you're running from. So you throw your hands up like doves to the setting sun. Somewhere down the stars are falling like jewels upon a thin black veil. You'll find the mysteries enthralling. 5 seconds seems like 5 billion years. 10,000 galaxies away, yet still so near.
Welcome to Karen Holton's podcast. Karen permanently lost 178 pounds and found happiness and success by following her own advice. She has now developed that advice into the quantum health transformation. Heal, evolve, and thrive. Karen's website offers a free webinar workshop series, and you'll also find tools, methods, and practices to assist you to become the change you want to see in the world. She believes that we are all connected. Heal the planet by healing yourself. Connect with Karen at her website, KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com, and through Facebook at Facebook.com/Quantum Health Transformation. Now for the podcast.
Hi guys. Hi everybody. Welcome to my very first live, and I'm just getting used to the system, so bear with me. I have with me my students today, Don Rogers, Canadian Spinja, and Ray. And this is the very last of the Quantum Health Transformation program. This is the conclusion. So today we're just basically going to be going over the program, talking about it, and taking any questions we might have from the live audience. So I'm going to just check the comment section. Oh, we got one from Canadian Spinja. Hi, Spinja. Anyway, how are you guys doing?
Pretty good.
It's been a crazy week, but it's been cool. We had a truck repair that unexpectedly came up, and we were kind of panicking. How are we going to take care of it? And then we just put it out to the universe. It's like, we didn't ask for this. This wasn't anything that we did intentionally. So we're just going to throw our hands up in the air and trust that the universe is going to take care of us.
Wonderful. Yep, that seems to be the best way. And it really helps take a lot of the stress out of things.
It actually ended up happening. Last weekend, we had helped one of my best friend here in Alberta. We helped her and her husband move. And she was so grateful that she knows our situation too. And I've explained it to her, it's a choice, but she didn't like that. So she sent us some extra money, and it was enough to cover our repair.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And
fantastic.
It really has, when you change your perception of what's going on, and again, here's Karen's nubby ball, it's allowed me the opportunity to even look at the last 3 years of our lives since we've been hit the nubby ball on our spiritual growth pattern, especially her. And there's not a lot in the last 3 years that we've asked for that we haven't come from the right place that we haven't got. We wanted the truck. Well, we wanted a functional vehicle that was safe to drive in Alberta. And for those who don't know how bad the snow gets, look it up. It's bad. So, but, something with a little pep. And we ended up falling backward into the truck that we now have. We said just on a whim, we came to visit the town that we live in because Ghostbusters was shot here, the Afterlife movie. And it's like, it would be neat to live here. That's where we live now. Right? She asked for the job that she loves to no extent and absolutely understand why, because I've never heard of a company like where she works. It's specifically what she asked for. If you come to the universe with the proper intentions and keep the right perceptions and vibration, it happens. And it keeps happening as long as you're willing to not question it and just receive.
Yep, yep, I would agree with you. So maybe a good place for us to start is with step 9. So with this program, it's a free online course. It's available from my website. It's also available. I have a Quantum Health Transformation version 3.0 playlist on YouTube. And for those of you that are new to the whole concept, we start with step 9, and then we work our way slowly towards step 1, and we do step 1 last. I know it's a little different, but it sort of helps to shake up the paradigm a bit, you know? So in step 9, I teach how to use a conceptual tool called the Nubby Ball. And it's a way of looking at reality that helps us to get a better idea of the whole, because we're taught that things are binary. Things are either up or down, they're either back or forth, they're either good or bad, they're either black or white, and that's simply not true. And it makes our thinking less critical, and we get lazy in our imagining our concepts, especially abstract concepts. And so what you do is you take this Nubby Ball tool and you imagine that there's a North Pole and a South Pole, and you put the two binary extremes there. So you might put, good at the top in the North Pole and bad or evil down at the South Pole. And then look at as though there are infinite nubs in between, which are all the possibilities. So the huge infinite amount of possibilities lie between black and white, lie between up and down, lie between good and evil. And the other thing is it also introduces you to shadow work. And so, if you cast a light on one side of a Nubby Ball, you get a shadow side and a light side, much as the way the sun, hits the earth. And you can see that there is a shadow side that you may not consider, as well as a more positive or light side as well. And the interesting thing about this tool is it teaches you that sometimes we do the wrong thing for the right reason, and sometimes we do the right thing for the wrong reason. So it really expands the way you view everything. And the first 3 steps are to open your mind. And then also with step 9, it teaches you how to use this tool to do your own shadow work, because we all believe we're all in the light and the love all the time. But the truth of the matter is we're not. We all have a shadow side. And until we recognize it and learn to deal with it and incorporate it into our whole way of being, we're running on half the information, because ultimately our light side and our shadow side are there to give us information. So, Dawn, do you have anything you want to say about how you experience step 9?
Yeah, and it's something that Spin and I often catch ourselves doing, and it's not because when I first woke up, I thought, I have to have the ego death. I have to get rid of the bad person that was. I'm open about the fact I used to be an asshole, and there's probably some people that really don't like me, right? But I'm beyond that in my own sense. But I also realized you can't kill your ego. You can't kill your dark side because it's part of who you are. So what we do now is actually embrace it in almost a playful way. When we catch each other or catch ourselves saying something kind of shitty, it's like, whoa, shit, hello, out. Like, we'll react to it like we didn't even see it coming, because most of the time you don't, right? It's that deeply ingrained in you, and it's not something you can take away, but it's something you can work with. And if you change your perception of the shadow and of the ego, you change the way you look at yourself a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
And it was based on I think you were talking about your inner asshole, I think, at one point.
Yeah.
And that's how I'm viewing it, because my shadow, like there was a point where it was very, very, very loud. And running the show, and it, it takes a while to even just recognize it and be able to verbalize it and pinpoint it. And now that like I have the terminology to recognize it, it makes it a lot easier to recognize. It's like, oh, okay, maybe that's not the way I should be viewing this, but I'm going to hear it out and ask, and get down to the, why do I feel this way? Why is this coming out? And
Yeah.
what do I need to look at? It's been very helpful.
Oh, good. Now, did you find that once you start not stop being afraid of it and take a playful approach to it, that it could then dial down and not be as loud or as disturbing when you do recognize it, and it sort of just becomes a part of your way of recognizing reality?
It Yes, and one of the ways I get through it is, it's like, okay, so I just acknowledge it. Okay, it's like, okay, there is a part of me that feels this way and wants to react this way. I hear you.
Mhm. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
It,
And then it's not as disturbing, and you can decide whether you want to take that advice or that information or not. There's lots of times where a thought will come into my mind and I just say, wow, I don't know where that came from, but that's not me. I do not want to think that way. I don't want to have that opinion. And so I'm just going to discard it and replace it with the opinion or the feeling or the thought that I want to have. And so that's really how you do it. It's not that difficult, but it does take courage. It definitely takes courage. So that's what I found.
something that I've found since putting it into practice is it actually has disarmed a part of my personality that I didn't have very good control over. Like, I used to let my shadow talk a lot, and now it'll get about a sentence out, and it's like, well, what the, slow down. What am I saying here? Like,
Yeah.
it's actually changed my interpersonal conversation with a lot of people and a lot of my day-to-day things, because I don't just clap off at the mouth, because it's like I'll get about halfway through in a verbally aggressive sentence and like, do you hear yourself? Right?
Yeah.
And you can actually slow it down, and it's a good thing for our relationship, especially because, like, we both have horrible histories. We both have reaction triggers. We both have PTSD from toxic people in our lives. And it's like, wait, that's not her. Or
Mm-hmm.
she'll go, and wait, that's not him.
Mm-hmm.
And it certainly allowed us to step out of personality traits and look at them from a different perspective in the moment for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I can see that the whole nubby ball concept is helping you because, as you talked earlier about the issue with your truck, when you look at a nubby ball, you realize there's infinite possibilities. And the way we're perceiving it from our vantage point is only one point on a nubby ball. It's not the entirety, it's only one way. And by recognizing that and softening and relaxing, we can allow the greater reality or source or whatever you want to call it to come in and actually give you a hand instead of solidifying it as your perception, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
That's been our experience, like this week in particular. Like source
Mhm.
source happened to work through my friend.
Yep. Yep. The miracles are all around us. It's just that what prevents us from seeing it is our basically, let's just talk about for a minute about the slit or the double slit experiment they've done with quantum physics, where they shoot electrons through these two slits. And when it's not being observed, it just becomes an interference pattern. But when they put an observer or a camera watching what's happening with the electrons, it just goes into two slits. The same pattern is passing through two slits. So what makes the difference as we understand it is as soon as we say this is this way or that way, or we nail it with our perceptual belief system, it solidifies and gives us exactly what we want, instead of letting it stay in an amorphous state and then we let the greater energy to come through, or our higher self, or whatever you believe in, to come in and help. So yeah, so that's absolutely been my experience. The whole thing is stay calm. For God's sake, stay calm and don't jump to conclusions. And it's difficult, but with practice, we can definitely do that.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
before we move, sorry, go ahead. I just want to say, before we move on to step 8, did you have any other comments you wanted to make?
no, I just can absolutely agree with what you're saying. Like, it really is the energy that we put out into our environment that oftentimes creates the scenarios in which we live.
Yep, it sure does. And if we want it to be different, we have to see it different. And that's partly what this whole program is about. It's not the only way of doing things, it's just another way of presenting the information that has been kept secret and has been buried and overridden by the matrix to keep us from becoming all that we can be. And so I'm encouraging people to not only view the lessons and the 9 steps, but to also share this information. It's free. It's not copyrighted. You can duplicate it. You can incorporate it into your own teaching methods. And yeah, it's there for everybody to benefit from, anyone who relates to it, that is. So moving on to step 8. Step 8 reintroduces us to a lot of concepts that we have become quite familiar with over the last 20 years. So it helps us to see that we can find many ways to what I would call self-soothe, ways to start feeling better so that we can not just be changing intellectually, but actually comforting our body and our mind. And we can do that through grounding, being outside. You can also ground through hot salty baths, because the plumbing that's attached to your tub and the drain system is grounded. That's what grounds all the electrical outlets in your home. And when you make a salty bath, you can add some essential oils if you want, and that creates a wonderful environment. You become like a battery, and it's a great place to have spiritual experiences. We can also self-soothe through positive affirmations, visualization. All of these things really help. And then, of course, I also introduce you to the concepts of orgone generators. I don't know if this is going to come through the camera. Here's one that I have here. This one here is peridot. It's got a clear crystal point that's been wrapped in copper. And if you're interested in knowing more about orgone generators, you can visit my website, and I've got a playlist. Everything is under the free resources tab, and you can learn more about orgone generators. And then if you want to help support my work, you might want to visit my shop and buy one of my beautiful orgone generators. And they're in limited supply, so when they're gone, they're gone. I'll have to find a new supplier. I don't have one yet, but in the meantime, there's still quite a bit to choose from. But so there are many ways to create an environment that's comforting. I also recommend that people change the layout of their home. Now, you can't necessarily change how many rooms you have or how much square footage you have, but you can bring in some live plants. You can make your resting area very comfortable. You can make your sleeping area very comfortable. You can fill your kitchen with healthy foods. Personally, if I have to go to the store and get something when I have a craving, I'm not going to do it. But if it's right there in the cupboard, then, I'm going to go do it. So if I'm trying to eat better, I just make sure I don't have anything that's not good for me in the house. So that's all part of creating a loving environment and a safe place where we can unwind, detach, and think about things. And I'm wondering if you folks have anything you want to add about step 8.
I actually do, because, like, again, I'm going to go back to about a year ago before I was as spiritually aware as I am now. Like, I had looked into all of this, and I never paid a lot of attention to grounding, because it's like, I'll say exactly what I thought. Oh, that's hokey hippie bullshit nonsense. No, there's actual science to it, because when you break it down, you're electrons, he's electrons, she's electrons, and that tree I'm about to go hug is electrons too. None of us are actually a star. So when you think about every electron that you are in a free floating state, because you're just vibrating all at the same resonancy, and you touch that tree, and if you guys can actually adapt, it's freaking science, not hokey hippie nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of
So
had
true.
to do it my own way.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it there is absolutely something to the fact that we can connect with the earth, and it's something that we lose sight of in our 3D workaday 9 to 5 world. We think a tree is a tree is a tree, and I am a solid human. Well, no, you're not. We're all just free flowing atoms that
Yeah.
can connect and interchange with each other.
Yeah. And when we spend a lot of time indoors, we lose sight of the natural world. It even affects our eyesight and our energy level. When we get outside, we're distracted by the movement of the trees and the birds and all kinds of things that we don't see when we're in the house. And it really expands our awareness and helps us to feel more comfortable and that we belong. And it's easy to lose ourselves in isolation indoors, especially because so many of us struggle with spending a lot of screen time, and so yeah, that's how I believe. Now, before we go on to step 7, do any of you have anything you wanted to add?
Um, it just this step, like it made it a little easier to for me to get motivated to make more things from scratch. I've been trying to push myself to do it more, and it just kind of solidified the why I'm doing it. And that it's part of like exactly what you said, like if you're working on changing your eating habits, if you are making everything, like even if you're making your cookies and you're making your junk food, you're putting the effort in. And to me, it comes from a different place. Like if you eat a cookie that you've made versus a cookie that you've bought from the store, it's a whole different process.
Oh, it
and
is.
and it just like cutting out the processed stuff and just making the switch to making stuff on your own. You become more mindful of what you're putting into your body,
Yep.
and I find it's easier to take more control and make healthier choices.
Oh, I agree. And when you make it at home, you're not getting the dyes, you're not getting the preservatives, you're not getting the seed oils, you're not getting all the toxic elements that give it a shelf life. And the other thing too is just handling the ingredients and making it yourself, especially if you've got some love in your heart or you're listening to music or something and it's peaceful or it's just kind of a hobby. That's adding something positive to the mix as well. And so I agree, it's a great jumping off point. Like nobody just changes their lifestyle overnight. Man, I've struggled with it for years to get where I am right now. I would never expect someone to just do it because I say so, or even if because we know that it's the right thing to do. So I agree, that's a very, very good point. And that's all part of this. So
Um,
oh, go ahead.
just on top of that, like even in a dietary sense, like the act of making cookies takes like what, 20 minutes, half hour, sometimes even longer. You're moving around, you're physically involved. You're not just
Yep.
reaching for the pre-made crap. Like there's a 40-minute experience of movement and caloric burn for you to get that cookie in the first place.
Yep.
Right? So you actually have to do something healthy for your body. You're up, you're moving around, you're breathing, you're mixing, you're stirring, you're learning, you're tactile. All of it is good for you. So making your own
Absolutely.
stuff,
And it's
yeah.
creative. You're creating. And that's what we're meant to be. We're creator beings. So good point, Dawn. So moving on to step 7. Step 7 is about male female energy integration. So if we use one side of our brain more than the other, it becomes dominant and stronger. We actually want to use both sides of our brains and have them working in harmony. And this step teaches you how to do that, but it also introduces you to the concept of how we all have male and female energy. And I'm not discounting that, some people are transgender. But at the same time, I think if people were in touch with their male and female qualities, habits, ways of expressing, energies, they may not be so quick to want to jump ship and cross over. But for those who do cross over and are transgender, I also give a simple sort of very biological rundown on why this is happening and what's contributing to it. And I completely stay out of gender politics. So, but it's very important, just like in step 9, we do our light shadow integration. And in step 7, we do our male female energy integration so that we can be more complete human beings. Did you guys have anything you wanted to add or any comments about that section?
I really appreciated how you explained, like the concept of transgender without the politics. That was beautiful, and it really, because I've had questions, but how do you go about asking the questions without it turning into just weaponized, fired up, like just not a good thing? And
Yeah.
so I want to thank you for this, because it's answered my questions, and it's also helped with us as well. Like he knows, like we've put it out there, like he can ask us anything. And I feel like, I don't know, like this was kind of a refreshing perspective for you too, right? Like you would have, like it would have been completely, like the approach is completely different than what you'd be learning in school, right? Yeah.
I found
Wonderful.
it made a very interesting example point of like, and I'm not touting that we're this awesome couple or whatever, but like how interchangeable her and I are. And I don't want to use androgynous because I think it's overused. I don't want to use twin flames because we're not those people. But like, we call each other our interdimensional exit buddies, because like she can go have the 9 to 5 job and I can be the stay-at-home person, or I can go have the 9 to 5 job and she can be the stay-at-home person. It really doesn't matter. And the fact that Ray's picking up that there are no gender roles in our house, like I bake, I cook, I he does dishes, he bakes, like she'll mow the lawn, she takes the truck in for an oil. It doesn't matter what's between your legs,
Mm-hmm.
right? Certain qualifiers that I'm going to be physically stronger than her and blah blah blah. We won't get into that, but no, it was absolutely wonderful that like on a sociological sense you can separate, like, look, these are just made up words. That's not a boy
Yep.
job, that's not a girl job, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
it was a great section to truly show that there a lot of it's just made up nonsense.
Yeah, it's gender stereotypes, and we don't need them. We can move past them. You can express any way you want that makes you comfortable, as long as you're not hurting anybody else. And I also present the transgender information from an adult concept. I do not get into the whole concept of children and transgender. Again, that's just extremely political. And so I'm only referring to adults, in this lesson. And then we move into step 6, which is huge. Step 6 is actually divided into 3 parts. And the first part is external detoxification, where I teach you about the many chemicals that are in our personal care and cleaning products, and things that we're always coming in contact with that we may not realize how toxic they really are. And we need to replace them with something. What do we replace them with? I give you recipes on how to make your own do-it-yourself products that clean better or just as well, personal care products that are non-irritating, that are safe to use, and it's all there in part 1. Did you folks switch out anything or learn anything that was significant in that part?
Yes. the biggest one, I switched out. I'm just using baking soda now. In the morning, I get up, I have my shower, I put some baking soda on under my pits. And I do it while I'm standing in the shower, and it just naturally sticks. And I take it with me, and I'm doing the sniff test throughout the day, and nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't need
It
toxic deodorants. I mean, there might be a few that are okay, but most of them are toxic. Absolutely. Good
it
example.
it it blew my mind, like just how simple that is and how effective it is.
And how cheap it is, too.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And because if it can stand up to a 16-year-old boy, it works.
Yep. 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 Ain't that the truth? And then in step 6, part 2, we get into internal detoxification, where I talk about all the things that we may not realize are food-like products and are not actually food. And this causes inflammation, raises insulin, that raises cortisol, and gets us on a huge merry-go-round that does nothing but earn a lot of money for the pharmaceutical industry. And as soon as people understand what is real food, now we touched earlier on snack foods, make your own. It's a huge step forward right there. But then eventually, we start to swap out certain habit foods for new foods, and we gradually over time start to become habituated to a proper human diet. And it's so important because once the inflammation leaves the body, it just blows me away how good I can feel. And I feel better than I did when I was 25. I have less pain than when I was 25. And I'm an old lady, I'm almost 70. Like, it's unbelievable the effect that it has. So, and again, it's taken me years. I had a huge sugar addiction, and it took me years and years and years of falling off the wagon and getting back on and falling off the wagon. But eventually I had done enough research and I was able to give it up. And so when you're ready, you will. But before that, I don't consider it failure or even falling off the wagon. I consider it, oh, I'm out doing more research. Obviously, I need more research. And pretty soon the pain comes back. I start gaining weight. I feel terrible. I go, no, it's just not worth it. And eventually you just go, yeah, I could go and eat this or that, but I'm not going to because it's not worth the 2-week recovery time.
Yeah.
So,
And
so go ahead. Sorry.
Chris Matthew touched on this, and Spin was the one who told me it costs as much to eat at McDonald's as it does to go to fine dining.
Yeah.
So, what the hell are you shoving in your face, and why? Like,
Yeah.
it's just I'm not going to go into the rant, but yeah, it's literally, it's not even that it's cheaper anymore. So why are you still doing it to yourself?
Yeah. And you can go out to a restaurant and easily pay $35 a person. And yet we turn our nose up at a big, fat, juicy steak that might be $35. Personally, I would way rather pick up the steak and throw it on the Barbie. And it's fantastic, and we go, oh, it's too expensive. It's too expensive. Meanwhile, we'll go out to restaurants or we'll just going out for a movie, and having popcorn and drinks and some snacks can cost a friggin' fortune. And so it's
Oh yeah.
really about making decisions on what we want to spend our money on and what are we supporting. We're voting with our dollar every time we make a purchase.
Well, and it's getting easier. Like it was funny. Um, it was last week before, it doesn't matter. There was some lunch miscalculation. I think Don forgot like he makes me meat snacks every morning, and that's what I snack on throughout the day. And he forgot to pull the meat out, and anyway, I ended up, it's like, well, okay, I could go to a restaurant, like a fast food place, and grab something because I'm surrounded by them. And once upon a time, I would have been like, yes, I have an excuse. And now it's like, ugh, really?
Yeah,
I
gross.
guess some go to Subway because it's the lesser of the evils.
Yeah,
But
that's
I
so
was
true.
excited about that. And like that's changed for me. Like there was a point where, if I had the opportunity for fries and gravy, I'd be dropping everything and going. But
Yeah, me too.
it just
Me too.
it happens. It happens gradually, and for me, I just kind of woke up one day and it's like, wait a minute, I'm not craving this stuff anymore. It just went away.
It
Yeah.
it changes the grocery aisles for you too.
Oh, it's appalling. It's appalling to go down the aisles and realize it's all toxic. The only thing that's not toxic is the stuff around the perimeter, the vegetables, the meat, the dairy. Well, even that's debatable. But
Yep.
at the
Yeah,
same time, it's a good place to begin is to just shop the outside edge of your supermarket. It's a really, and you look at people and they're not doing well. Like, I don't look at them and judge them. I don't look in their cart and judge them for what they're buying. I just look at them and they're not doing well. And I want to jump up and down and say, guys, you need to eat real food. It'll save you. And yet I can't, because that's none of my business what they want to eat. And I just, like, this program is free and it's available for everybody. So this is what I'm doing to help create radical change. And then step 6, part 3 is about emotional detoxification, where we learn how to own all our feelings and how to put them to good use. And I find it really beneficial too, because especially before I changed my diet, I had mood swings, I had anxiety, I had huge bouts of depression. I used to get so depressed I couldn't even get off the couch for 3 weeks, sitting there in my same pajamas I hadn't changed or washed. I know this is really embarrassing to admit, but that's how bad it was. And then I would start to get my energy back and I'd go, oh, I need to start going for walks. I couldn't even walk for 1 block. I was so weak. And then I'd build myself up, and then eventually I'd be doing better and then crash again. I don't have that anymore. My tomorrows belong to me. My today belongs to me. And I'm not afraid to try new things because I don't have that debilitating anxiety that kept me from doing and being everything that I wanted. And I'm wondering if you folks have had any experiences around that.
Oh, what what you said right there, Karen, like I went through that as well. And and you when you're in that state, that you want to be in a different state, but it's just so hard to get going, and it does take multiple tries. And like, if you can get it on the first shot, wonderful. If you can get it on the second shot, you're doing well. If you get it on the third shot, but just keep trying. And for me, I found that once you get over the hump, um it gets easier. And I think part of it, my karate sensei, um he saw that I was struggling, and I mean, I look back now and I'm like, how the hell did I do it? That's when I was at my heaviest. I was about, well, the last I stopped counting, I was about 260 pounds. And I was doing karate, and I'm just like, to hell with it. Like, I want to do this. I want to get better. And my sensei knew that I was having a hard time, and he's like, look at it this way. Just get here. Because have
Yeah.
you ever come and regretted coming? No, I've never regretted coming. And he says, if you can just pull yourself here, that's half the battle. Like, you won if you get here. And
Yeah.
then once you get past that hump, then it just gets easier.
It does. And I found that what I would do, the hardest thing for me was to get out my front door. So what I would do is I would lay out the day ahead of time the clothes that I was going to wear tomorrow to go for a walk. And once my clothes are laid out, I go, well, my clothes are laid out, I may as well put them on. And then once the clothes were on, then I would go, okay, I'm just going out. I'm only going to do 1 block, but I'd get out there and pretty soon I'd be walking, 3 blocks, 10 blocks, 20 blocks. And that's how I did it. I have to sort of trick myself. I just want to take a minute to say hi to John P. Adventures. Hi, John P. So nice to see you. Everybody go to John P. Adventures YouTube channel and check him out. He's got some really cool videos. So thank you so much for joining us today. Yeah, so the other thing is it's almost like exercise gives you energy. Once you push through those beginning times, it actually gives you energy and gives you a whole bunch of more energy to do other things. And actually, our muscles are what they call piezoelectric, which means they actually draw energy from 0 point. People think that the energy is from your food. The energy from your food, yes, that's part of it. But we actually, when we're moving our bodies, we create energy for ourselves. So, yeah, it's very, very important. But just doing stuff, just do something, even if it's something small, just do something. So that takes us to step 5. And step five is about food, but it's about recognizing real food and how important it is, because there's a spiritual component. Real food contains biophotonic energy that comes from the sun. Now, if we're eating meat, it still comes from the sun. It goes into the grass, a very high frequency. The animals eat the grass. Well, hopefully not too much grain, but their food is what contains the biophotonic energy, and that gets into their bodies. Then we eat them, and then that energy is transferred to us. And so I show images taken with Kirlian photography that show the auric field around us, around real food, and how important real food is. And real food also has an amazing positive effect on our mental health and our spiritual health. So that was brought out in step 5. Do you folks have anything you want to add to that?
Just about the grass-fed food. We're on a budget and blah blah blah. It sucks, the economy in Canada. But you gave us a bunch of grass-fed butter and stuff. And as soon as I opened the butter, I was like, oh shit, right. I remember what butter actually looks like. Because it looked like I was a little kid. It doesn't look like that now, but I've been so, it's the boiling frog. I've accepted the way the new butter looks so slowly. It just doesn't bother me, like boiling a frog alive, right?
Yeah.
They put so much shit into it that you don't notice it. But when I opened an actual grass-fed butter, I was like, oh my God, that's what, shit, I'm eating poison again.
What was the difference?
Yeah, it's so full of flavor. And animal fat contains vitamins A, D, K, and vitamin E in great abundance. And when you're using seed oils or margarine, you're not getting any of that. So I don't want to get into the debate veganism over omnivore or carnivore. That's all in step 5 of the quantum health transformation if you want to delve further. But animal products are important. And we're lucky. We live in Alberta, and all the animals are pastured or grass-fed up to a certain point, and then they just go into the feedlot at the end to get fattened up with the grain. But again, if you can do vegetables, a great source of universal love energy. The biophotonic energy is amazing. And if you're going to eat vegetables, eat some of them raw so that you can get that live energy into your body. Very, very important. So then there's step 4, and step 4 is how to detox from the construct. So we're born into this world, we're brainwashed and programmed from the day we're born, actually from before. And then one day, at some point in our lives, sometimes it happens in childhood, but the child is not supported and they go back to sleep, and then hopefully they wake up again later. And people start to realize that the world is not what we were taught it was. Things are not fair, they're not equal. There's some paranormal experiences we may be having that, we're afraid to talk about in case people think we're crazy. There's the whole mental health industry, which is actually, I believe, in my opinion, makes people sick. I know because I tried to get help from them with my depression and my anxiety. They did not give me the tools I needed for recovery. They just basically wanted me to take the pharmaceuticals and gaslight me. And so that's why I don't participate in any of that. Now, if you're seeing a mental health practitioner or an allopathic doctor and it's working for you, then I see no reason to change it. But for a lot of us, this is part of our waking up process. And we start to realize the world is not what we thought it was. So what do? How do we detoxify from that? So I teach you how to understand your learning process and how to alter that so you have better outcomes and you start to go off into the direction that's important to you. And one other thing I want to say about it is I also reveal a lot of arcane or secret teachings in step 4 about how our intention absolutely affects everything we think, we say, and we do. They all have energetic outcomes. So if we're gossiping and we're lying and we're spreading rumors, that is exactly the same thing as evil spell casting. But when we're trying to think in a healthful way and we're encouraging others and we're thinking of them in an improved state, you can't change other people, but you can think of them in an improved state. That all is blessings, prayers, best wishes, and that has a positive effect. So I'm just wondering, do you folks have anything you want to say about step 4?
As far as the mental health, and I'm going to preface this is my experience and my personal opinion. This is not medical advice. The only thing I ever got from the mental health factory was a label and a prescription.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I stopped taking a neurological inhibitor that they had me on for what they claimed was borderline personality disorder. The drug was called venlafaxine, and it's supposed to create more serotonin. But if I were to take myself off of it because I didn't feel I needed it, I actually had physical withdrawal symptoms in my brain where like
Yeah.
my face would go numb, like a stroke, my brain would hurt, my mouth was dry. I finally got myself completely off of them, and it was probably a worse withdrawal than alcohol.
Yeah.
And that's when the spiritual awakening happened. I quit
Yep.
alcohol, I quit cigarettes. Last thing I did was quit all pharmaceuticals. And as soon as I was dry, I came online.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And so I'm wondering how much of the psychiatric industry is there to shut us down and put us back to sleep. I myself was on benzodiazepines from the time I was 14, off and on, from the time I was 14 till I was 50. And when I went through withdrawal, I thought I was gonna die. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't function, I couldn't stop crying. It was horrible. And nobody warned me that that would happen if I ever stopped taking it. And so, and I also was on all kinds. I tried them all. I tried them all. I was a good girl. I did what my doctor told me to do. I did what my psychiatrist told me to do. And I just ended up sick and terribly overweight, 320 pounds, most of my adult life. And my life didn't work. And anyone would be depressed if they had had my life at that point. And I struggled and struggled. So this is not medical advice. We're not suggesting that you stop taking your medication. We're just giving our opinions and our life experiences, and you can all do with it what you want. But I agree, Dawn. And since I threw off the labels and the prescriptions, my life has improved and improved and improved. And that takes us to step 3. And step 3 is all about manifesting, how to work with the seasons, how to look at the world in a way that helps to maximize our manifesting potential so that our lives better recognize what we desire. And there's so many ways of looking at the whole process, including taking a look at turbulence, which means things get worse before they get better. And when we're manifesting, we're drawing up from the 0 point or from, the Planck level. And at that point, everything is undifferentiated waves and particles. And so it isn't until we name something or view it a certain way or have a certain opinion about it that all the other options collapse and we're left with the one that we're perceiving. And how it's so important to perceive things differently so the waveforms collapse in for our benefit and to give us more of what we want. Also, how to deal with trauma through corrupting past memories. I've had wonderful success with that. And also ways of looking at disappointment and so-called failure to see that it's just a mistake or a retake, and we can get back on the bandwagon and just keep making our todays different so that our tomorrows end up being different as well. Do you folks have anything you want to add about step 3?
It's incredibly useful. It's certainly changed our current situation.
We're
It goes
in
back to the
process
sorry, go ahead.
just reading things, and it's getting really cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. And oh, I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, so it is really cool. And it goes back to the double slit test we were talking about earlier. Yeah,
I
it's
know.
just different ways of working with that concept to help you to get more of what you want. And life just gets better and better. Why wouldn't it? And for me too, I have to be careful of how much alternative media and, well, I don't watch any mainstream media, that's not an issue for me, but how much alternative media I also want to pay attention to, because that can have you sleepless at night and worrying about tomorrow so much. And instead, let's make magic in our own lives. That affects each other, that affects everything, and that does more to draw us into a more positive outcome. So yeah. So anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Do you have anything else you wanted to add to that before we go to step 2?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so step 2 teaches you how to create a spiritual framework to hang your newfound experiences on. Now, if you have a religion and it's working for you, great. Does not replace that. This can work in addition to or instead of. It's up to you. And it helps you to build your own framework. So you customize how you want to see your spiritual life so that you get better results. And the other thing I bring out is that, it's not that we all have different realities. Well, we do have different realities, but there are some things like, for instance, say we want to build a soul team and we want to include ancestors or our great grandmother who we really loved, or one of our parents or a cousin, or whether we want to include angels or extraterrestrials, or spirit guides that are animal spirits. We can do that. All of that is existing in our present day reality, even though we're not aware of it. But the difference is this is our realm, and we have to ask them to come in to our realm and help us and be our guides and help us before they can do so. And the human senses, we take in such a narrow band of the wavelengths that we can understand and interpret of sound, of color, of all, hearing. There's so much more out there. And then there's the other dimensional realities. And the other thing I want to mention, a lot of people jump to fear and they go, oh my God, I can't do that. What if something evil comes into my realm? Well, this is your realm. If something is in your realm and you're not comfortable with it, you get it to tell it to leave, and it has to leave. This is your realm. Like, if people understood how incredibly powerful we are within our own realm, they would see things very differently. And I personally have never had anything evil or terrible come into my realm. I have sensed negative energy before, and I just banish it. I just say it out loud. I banish you from my reality. Get the hell out of my reality. You got no business bleeding over into my life. And yet all the beautiful positive things, ancient scholars, all kinds of things I have as part of my soul team. And then, as Spinja will probably mention, um, you don't have to know who's who in the zoo. You can just incorporate all of that into healthful teachings that you intuitively are aware of. And you could call that anything you want. And Spin, do you want to say a little bit more about your process?
Yeah, like I know, like when I was starting on my journey and I started asking questions, I ran across individuals who, like have been able to directly communicate with this this being or entity or angel or whatever, and I'm not denying it. And like Dawn has a connection with Archangel Gabriel, and I think it's amazing when they reveal themselves and who's who. And for me, I was feeling a little discouraged, but then it just got to the point, you know what, I'm going to do what I've always done. Because like even before, like I started on my awakening process and everything, I still just kept the faith no matter what I went through, that there was always somebody with me, be it source or whatever. I knew deep down in my heart that I was divinely protected. And so
Yes.
how I approach it is that I know I have a team. I know I'm surrounded. I know I have angels. I know I have there's fairies, there's like every being that you can imagine. I just know it. And so I put it out there. I just speak to my team, and
Yeah.
I thank them for their wisdom and their guidance. And I ask to work with them, and like and for protection, and basically put it out there that if there is anybody that wants to work with me benevolently, um, no strings attached, um, then I am willing to work with you and accept your help. Let's keep the communication open, because I will reciprocate if it's, again, for the higher vibrational reasons. Like
Yeah.
I, I've set it up so that I will help, or I will accept unconditional help as long as it's benevolent, and will reciprocate of my own free will.
Right. Right. Yep. And I also believe that everything gets channeled through our higher self, which is like a filter or a gatekeeping system that keeps it so that we're protected as well. So, yeah. Dawn, did you have anything you want to add before we go to step one?
Yeah, on top of what she was saying, and like, yeah, it was absolutely amazing during my hypnosis to find out that I have a fractal of great Gabriel somewhere deep within my subconscious. And I love her approach that, it doesn't matter that she doesn't know their names. And I can go one further because of the things that I've been figuring out. Spoiler alert, you're connected to all of them. We're all connected to
Yep.
everybody. So
Yep, we
you
sure
might
are.
not know your team's name, but you can damn sure they're the highest stage of your conscious awareness, and they're here to help you. They might be an Arcturian, they might be an alien, a Palladian, whoever, but we're connected to all of them. We all are. We all have the
Yep.
information in the universe at stages of our consciousness. It's just where they align with our perceptions.
Yep, I agree 100%. Thank you for sharing that. So at this point, I think what I'm going to do before we go into step one, which is the last step, I'd like to just play a short promotion for folks. Everybody thrives when we have a mission, and there is no greater mission than to become the change we wish to see in the world. Sometimes, though, we need a little help from consultation and support services. Have you discovered that this world is not what you thought it was?
Have recent global events awakened you and leave you feeling unsettled? Do you feel isolated by your new, not so popular beliefs? It is a big shock to wake up and find that the old familiar world is gone. It can be disturbing to go down the various rabbit holes only to find that the information is difficult to digest and few people are willing to talk openly about it. Would you like to learn how to thrive in this new state of awareness? You are not a conspiracy theorist. You are awakening, and once you find your way through it, there are many blessings waiting on the other side. My name is Karen Holton, and I offer vital services that may be just what you need, and support for your journey into the weird and wonderful. Check out my Awakening Support and Ascension Consultation Services, created to support individuals with their chosen alternative realities and lifestyles, health and recovery, and their spiritual adventures. For more details, check out the various vital services found on my website, and be assured that I have found personal success with every category featured. My website is www.KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com. That's KarenHolton Healthcoach.com.
Okay, thank you for letting me do that. I'm just getting used to StreamYard. This is my first live show, so I'm a little rusty at knowing what buttons to click when and where, but I'm doing the best I can. So, yeah, let's get on to, sorry.
I said you're killing it. You're doing great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So yeah, step one is how to find spiritual bliss and spiritual exercise. It basically teaches you the benefits of practicing certain virtues like love, joy, peace, kindness, mildness, patience, self-control, and why we want to practice them. And indeed, it does take practice. I know for myself, a big one for me, of course, is self-control. It means that I can do something if I want, but I choose not to because it shows wisdom for me not to. And that can be something I crave that I want to eat, or that could be even something I want to say that might not be as kind as it could be. You know, everything has a vibration that goes out into the social reality, and is that going to add a positive vibration or a negative vibration? But another one that's a big challenge for me is patience, being patient with other people, but also being patient with myself. So I'm wondering if you folks have anything you would like to add about step one.
Well, for myself, like the resident recognizing the frequency of like our moods and stuff has become so interesting, because like you literally do vibrate at a frequency, and if it's not right, you feel agitated. It's a very interesting concept to explain. Like once you start to feel the vibrations of your moods, right, you do become super aware of them. Like we were talking about one specific thing, like it's been said that when Spin is in a workplace, she sets the tone. And I'm like, you realize they mean that literally, right? And she's like, well, and I was like, well, think about it. Okay, you convey a frequent tone out of your heart when you are happy, right? That tone becomes, like the experiment that we did at your house, significantly larger when it's a happy frequency. So like the other people in her factory are literally being affected, because there's people there just having the day-to-day life. And she's brought it up a couple of times. She's like, yeah, I was in a great mood, and this coworker came over, and this work. I'm like, it's you. They're just having a neutral day. You're over here shining, and they're like, oh, moth to the flame. What is that? Oh, hello. Like, that's what you're doing. You're the frequency. You're setting the tone. It's literal.
You know, what's interesting about that, Dawn, is empaths are charismatic. We have the ability to affect the mood and feelings of people around us. Now, what's also interesting is empaths often end up as codependent or with narcissistic personality type people, which drains us of everything we have. And then we don't have anything positive to pass out to the world. But when we break free of those dynamics and we just choose not to do it that way or to do it differently, even if we don't know anything different, we just know that we're not going to do it that way and we're going to be open to opportunities to do it differently, then empaths can become more charismatic and pass on that wonderful positive vibe to other people. And it's absolutely contagious. I'm wondering if you folks want to talk a little bit about the experiment we did with where we used a coat hanger for divining, and we measured your heart torus, your heart chakra field, and how it was different at a neutral place when you thought about something negative and then when you thought about something positive.
That was huge, and I love that we did it, because I was actually a couple of days ago talking with one of my coworkers about it. Um, and just like and going back to my workplace, because yeah, like there's some individuals, and I don't think they realize that they're doing it, but there's some toxic behavior that's going on, and just kind of feels passive aggressive. Now, I don't think it's personal, but it's still ugly. And like, because of like my experiences, and like doing this course has helped me become aware of that too, because it's easy enough to bite.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I see what's going on here. And which brings me like back to what Dawn was saying in regards to setting the tone. And it's like, okay, now that I know and I've seen it, and especially with this experiment that we did, it's like, holy shnikes, I am responsible. Like, I need to be more responsible with my energy. I need to be more aware, because it actually is impacting people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was yeah. So getting back to the experiment that we did, um, it was such a huge deal, because like, so yeah, we used a wire coat hanger, and you had me set the baseline, so I was kind of like just neutral, and you took steps back, and I think you probably got about 10 12 feet, and then you asked me to focus on something that was not pleasant, like like basically, and reassuring me it's just temporary. And holy cow, when I did it, you didn't have to move at all.
Yeah.
Or maybe a couple of steps. Dawn's was even more dramatic. And then when you asked me to think about something happy, you like, when you stepped back, it was almost twice as much as my baseline.
Yeah, it was about 50 feet. And
It
and
was
so
it
what
was
we did, we used the coat hanger as a divining tool. And so it was pointed straight ahead, and then of its own ability, it went off to the side when we reached the outer limit of your field. And for folks, check out Don Rogers, his video. So the link to his channel is in the description below, and check it out. And he actually filmed it, and it's really quite something to see, and it works. So y'all can practice at home. It works. So yeah, that was really amazing. So that really proved the point, because we can talk about all these concepts all we want, but when you really see it, it just kind of, once your mind is expanded, you can't go back. It never gets small again. It just stays that way. So that's excellent. So yeah, and um, so I guess that's about it for the Quantum Health Transformation Program. I want to remind everybody that you can purchase the PDF copies, and the PDF copies have all the embedded links to take you to the research or where I found the information or different spots on my website or whatever you need to help you with the lesson. And although this is a free program, there's at least 2 videos for each step available from my website or my YouTube channel under Quantum Health Transformation version 3.0. The PDFs I am charging $3.99 each, which is very reasonable, and that's in Canadian funds, which is much less than American. And I recommend that you download them if you want to seriously take this program, and then encourage other people to also download them. And then that little bit of revenue comes back in and helps to pay for my expenses so that I can produce and provide this information. So before we move on to ending announcements, Dawn or Spin or Ray, do you have anything you want to add to that or add to what we've talked about?
No, it's been an incredibly fascinating course. Like, I'm definitely gonna have to like give myself a breather and come back to it. And I want to do it again in about 3 weeks, just to see where I am, because it really does. Even now that I'll know what's coming, it's like, okay, where am I there? Right? You can really start to use it as a measuring stick. I don't know how else to say it. It's like, okay, that's where I was the first time I did that. This is where I am now. Where do I want to be? Right? It really is a very handy tool for people that are just waking up.
Yeah,
and I want to.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. But I was just going to say as well, like, if there's parents watching out there, and like you've got like any parents, but particularly parents of teens. If your teen is willing to do this course with you, take it and run, because for me it's helped me hit the point home, because I know it's a common dynamic where the kids look at the parents like, yeah, you don't know anything, but they listen to somebody else and hears the same information and, oh wow, that's brilliant. So it's helped it's helped me hit my point home when it's like, okay, but I'm trying to make these changes and here's why. And then to take the course and have you point out the things that I've been doing, it's just like, thank you for that.
Awesome. I'm so glad. So the other thing is when you you start at step 9, you work your way down to do step 1 last, and then you go back and you start it all over again. You take a breather, and then you start again, and you'll see it from a whole new perspective. And each time you do it, you'll get deeper and deeper and deeper into it, and it'll offer more and more benefit. And also, like Dawn said, it gives you measuring sticks. You can see your progress. So, and you can see how you've changed as you've been doing the program. Dawn, go ahead.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but something Spin had mentioned too is that we might mull over like a class idea as well, like you talked about.
Yeah, if anybody, and I mean, I'm putting this out to you too, like if anybody is wanting to go through it and just wants somebody to go through it with, I would be happy. Like, we've been doing this slot at noon on Sundays for the last couple of months. And so if there's anybody out there that's wanting to do it and want somebody to go along with you, I am happy, like, to continue at this time, like noon on Sundays. I will go through it again.
Yeah, I'm not available noon on Sundays because I have the Aliens and Angels podcast. It starts next week. But yeah, and that's a live community event. But but a working group is a great idea. The other thing is, because Dawn and Spinja and Ray have gone through the entire program with me, they'll be getting certificates of completion. I'll be printing them out and mailing them. And so they are qualified to teach this program. So I do recommend, and both their links are in the description below, that if you're interested in joining a working group, please do reach out to them, and I'm sure that can be arranged. So yeah, but next week I start the Aliens and Angels podcast, and that's a community building event, a Q&A, and Dawn's actually going to be my co-host for that next week. Sorry, did you have more you wanted to say?
No, that was just an example of a time. Like, it's, if there is something, I'm just reach out and
We'll work it out.
We can figure something out. I'm happy to walk through with anybody.
Wonderful. Really great. So that's about it for the program. I'm wondering now if you folks want to just spend a few minutes telling the listeners and the viewers what you're up to, where to reach you, that kind of thing, before we say goodbye.
Well, for me, all of my stuff is on YouTube and Rumble, March 4th Productions, and it's the number 4 with TH. I am going to get back on the review shows. I'm just finishing up a paper presentation, whatever you want to call it, that I'm working on, that you kind of rattled around in my head on the Matrix simulation, and
we've got that coming up too. Yeah,
pay grade. So this has been an interesting experience. Like, I'll just wake up and it's like, oh, that's how that works. Do you know what that means? No, I don't know what that means. What the fuck does that mean? Yeah, it's kind of been like that.
Yeah, the Quantum Guide Show. The Quantum Guide Show I host every Wednesday afternoon, and it comes out more towards the evening. And Dawn and Spinja are also on my panel, and we're going to be talking about the simulated universe coming up in about 3 weeks. So that's really exciting stuff too. So Spin, what are you up to? You've got some really cool stuff happening.
Yeah, I'm going to do my first live crochet get together crash course today. I'm just going to go over the basics and see if anybody shows up. I'm doing it live, so I'm actually going to be on Dawn's YouTube doing the live. So that's at March 4th Productions, because I don't have enough subscribers yet. But I'm not going to let that stop me. So yeah, I'm just putting that out there to see, and then once it's recorded, it will be available on my channel, which is Canadian Spinja on YouTube, and I'm just gonna see where it goes from there. If there is a curiosity or interest in wanting to do like a live stitch along, then it's something I definitely want to entertain. And it's got me inspired to write up some patterns, and I've got a lot of ideas. I just need to implement it. And then we've got the gardens about ready to go in, so there'll be more pictures of that. And I've been doing a little bit more cooking this weekend, but I'm very grateful for the people that are following along with me on my journey, because, I think everybody knows that I'm doing what I can with what I have, and still maintaining a full-time job with mostly working 10. So
you're doing real well. You're doing really well. So actually, I had a post on my Facebook page from a woman who wanted to know if anybody else was out there doing fiber arts, and I told her about you. I think she's also in Alberta, and she wrote back and said she just bought her first spinning wheel. So I'm hoping she reaches out to you and sends you a friend request.
Oh, absolutely. I'm like ready to enable, ready to help answer some questions here. Yeah, and I was just connected with another woman this week, Jennifer Nunez. She just said that she had inherited a lot of her grandmother's fiber art equipment, and she's not quite sure what to do about it. It's like, hi.
She found the right person.
I'm happy to help out there. So yeah, you can find me on Facebook or Instagram, Canadian Spinja.
Wonderful. Okay, so all the links are below, and thank you everybody for joining us for the conclusion to the Quantum Health Transformation version 3.0. That's it for today, and we'll say bye-bye. And I hope you enjoy the program, and contact us if you want any more information.
Lying only makes you hurt. Denying only makes it worse. Love and surrender seem the fastest way to bring an end to bitter, painful days. Somewhere down the stars are falling like jewels upon a thin black veil, and you will thrill to hear your calling. 5 seconds seems like 5 billion years. 10,000 galaxies away, yet still so near.